Okay, yeah, I actually was planning on doing this anyway, but then this happened, and Rosetta's okay. Do some cards, and now back to what I was planning in the first place. One, I was out today early doing some run around because I finally, payday, so I was able to pay a few bills and hit a storage unit where I'm trying to hopefully eventually get that thing emptied, save ourselves a couple $100 a month, and found my laser discs. Yes, I had, and tell you what, the whole reason I have a Laserdisc player was so I could get this jewel right here. This is the animated series, and this is pretty much the only way. I don't know. I'm not sure about the what. Can you wait a minute? And I'm live right now. Hold on a minute. Live TV, gotta love it. No, this is about the only way you can really get the original animated series as it aired. Errors at all. Because the thing is, when they started repackaging them, like for your home, especially the DVD set, they changed a lot. Some of the stuff, why did you change this? There was nothing wrong with it in the first place. But I understand stuff like someone's wearing the wrong color shirt or something, or too many stripes, or the old famous six-fingered Spock in the one clip. But the most egregious error is like the episode Time Trap. The scene in Limbo originally had kind of a red swirly background with all these ships. For some reason, when they redid it for DVD, it's all black. That doesn't... Why? Nothing wrong with the way it works. Also... Whoops. That's going to be a problem. Because the box is not exactly intact here, so... Also fished out, I got two versions of the motion picture. Theatrical cut, also I know the longest test screen in motion picture history, and the longer version they did for ABC, where they stuck in what other footage have we got? Including stuff with like, that they didn't even finish the effects there. You can see the scaffolding. But couple of things I wanted to do here. There are a couple articles come up on Red Shirts Always Die, both from Chad Porto. And we'll drag this up here so you can see what I'm looking at. First, let's take care of this one here. A little bit of a history lesson. Well, something. Star Trek is always coming back. Star Wars had little to do with it. Yeah. Anyhow, let's go through. It's a short one here. Get that out of the way. The effect Star Wars had on Star Trek was a bit overblown. Yeah. And actually, one thing I also leave out is Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Okay, let's go through it here. In 1977, Star Wars debuted in the United States and took the country by storm. It became a phenomenon, and everyone, everywhere, tried to capture the success of the film. Films like Star Crash featured a young David Hasselhoff. That was the Italian one. Started to litter movie leaders in an attempt to siphon some of the Star Wars magic for themselves, and everyone with a science fiction IP got in on it. Star Wars reach was everywhere, and many plans were made to capitalize off the property, even if certain studios had nothing to do with it. It did impact the scene at the time. While it can be given credit for affecting a lot of things, what it can't be truly be credited for is bringing Star Trek back to the masses. Yet some want to claim otherwise. In a write-up from Digital Chew, it's claimed that DC Fontana gave credit to Star Wars for the return of Star Trek to the masses, namely the follow-up television series, The Next Generation. It's possible that Fontana made this claim. That's fair, but it's still not true, even if she did. Star Wars didn't truly influence anything Star Trek did, even as far back as 1977. See, the first Star Wars film, New Hope, debuted in 1977. Sequel series for the 1966 Star Trek was in the works, called Star Trek Phase 2. The piece erroneously claims it was the name of the film division. No, yeah, that's the thing. They start misdistributing, discount the thing because they weren't doing the homework. It was already in pre-production before Star Wars was released. The sequel series was set to be a tad different than the 66 series, stood to feature only a few of the original series characters. Actually, the only one they didn't have was Nimoy, because he was on Broadway and he had a lawsuit going with Paramount. It stood to feature only, and they fucking have some brand new ones, many of whom would see the light of day in Star Trek first film. Yeah, namely Riker, Decker, and Ilea. Zahn, no, the actor got a thing because he was on a pay-per-play contract, but the character of Zahn didn't. The sequel series wasn't impacted by Star Wars at all. What did impact it was a failed startup channel from Paramount. They wanted to launch Phase 2 alongside a new television channel, but the revenue they were expecting the channel to generate from ads was so low they failed on the plan. Well, I think they were just getting stations to sign on for it. They wasn't just much generate ads. No one wanted to sign up. The independent stations were independent. They would stay that way. Since Phase 2 was already in the works, things were reshuffled, and instead, Phase 2 became a film, starting motion picture. Well, the hope was high that the motion picture would do well, and some work was done to it to make it a bit more Star Wars in scope. I don't know about that. What? I am live right now. This is what I live with. What? How close they're getting, or what? Two minutes is fine. May I continue? You're interrupting my show. And I did this because I wanted to edit. All right. Okay, well, the hope is the most... Star Trek film been in the works through the mid-90s alongside Phase 2. Again, they're skipping a lot of stuff here. Despite Star Trek having two movies written, God Thing and Planet of the Titans, both scripts were rejected. Eventually, the film was scrapped as it was too close to the release of Star Wars to stand on its own. Article in question directly names Next Generation the franchise that Star Wars helped to get started. That is not true. The film franchise, for the most part, was a roaring success for Star Trek, but sustainability and growth became the topic of conversation in the mid-1880s, with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy asking for more and more money. The idea to pivot to a television franchise again was seen as a prudent and financially responsible one, especially if they lost Nimoy and Shatner. Having lasted 20 years at this point, and a third series already heavily worked on, second being the animated series, it was a no-brainer to go back to the television roots and create a new show. It wasn't because of Star Wars test that Next Generation it was created, but Star Trek's. It's hard to find old quotes, so maybe Fontana did credit Star Wars for influencing Paramount to make a great new show, but it stands to reason that a new show wouldn't have happened without the success of the Star Trek film franchise, and that the Star Trek film franchise was being built well before Star Wars ever debuted. Time to give Star Trek the credit for Star Trek's own achievements. Okay, I can appreciate the sentiment here. But another thing, this kind of goes into how, they had been really, once the Star Trek became a huge hit in syndication, that's when they started work. Okay, we kind of blew our chance here. Let's see if we can, and that's why, the animated series was the thing, because it showed the test of what, do people still really want this? And the animated series was a hit in on Saturday mornings. So, okay, they do like it, and again, by then they are doing a better job reading the demographics, so they know who was watching. And it wasn't all just 9-year-olds. Think they were getting the audience. And I also know it was, again, they were getting success at that point, but the really big hit in syndication happened just after. It was like 74 is when it really went big. I know that's when they started running it locally. Channel 4, 4 o'clock, for years. What? Oh, God. Let me throw up a video here real quick, okay? Let's see. No, not that. Hold on. Yes, this is what I live with, people. Yeah, let's throw on the Campia thing here, okay? Hold on. Okay, a while back, John Campia did a little something about, it was a question on his, someone asked him on his video podcast about Star Wars fans needing to move on from the original fans. Can they really move without having to, and he brought up Star Trek by comparison. And I think I need to correct him on a few points. And the response here is a little more than just something of a comment, because it's rather involved. And a little bit of inside baseball here, but all right, kick it off here.
From one of my Patreon supporters, Nak Hyun, who writes, I agree there's more to the galaxy far, far away than just about the Skywalker family. With Disney creating new generations of Star Wars stories, wouldn't they alienate or lose old fans? Wouldn't they lose or alienate old fans who grew up and came back to support the familiar theme or characters like Luke, Han, Leia, etc.? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And a special big thank you for being a Patreon supporter. You're one of the reasons this channel even exists. Thank you so much for that. This brings up a really big issue. That I know a lot of people in the chat board were even talking about before the show started, like saying, John, how can you say that Star Wars needs to move on from the original fans and blah, blah. I am an original fan, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Here's the thing.
Okay, now try so you can hear me. Okay, now before I get interrupted by the real world here. Okay, now they had been trying. Once it became clear the audience was there for Star Trek and they were being counted right properly now, and they're also old enough now because a lot of them were too young at the time when the show was on network to really be in a fan. In my case, I was like 2.5 when the show premiered, and it was just shy of my 5th birthday when it went off the air. But by the time it came back, I was now, about 10, 12 years old. Now I'm now getting into that thing where now my viewing counts because I buy stuff. I'm able to make my presence known in the marketplace. Like, hey, I saw this on Star Trek. And in that group, so now the audience actually matters because now you're a demographic that's worth advertising to. And so they were we probably missed our shot. Let's see if we can bring this back. And there's where the problem of trying to bring back a live action show, because these guys they've all scattered to the winds now. They got other gigs. Okay. Shatner was whatever he could, but Nimoy was back was back in the theater doing my stuff, and the rest of them were picking up gigs when they could, but a lot of them also were a lot of them were at the Star Trek conventions because they were paying and they weren't getting work because they were typecast. And as D. Kelly mentioned, it was getting a little old, but hey, they're willing to pay the money though. Go and do their song and dance routine for the fans. And that's also partially why when they did the movies, they were going to pay. Partially because, by the time they actually were in the first movie, the rerun checks had run out for about 8 years by that point. Because they're at the time the contract was only for the first 5 times a show's repeated. Well, by the time they run hundreds of times by that point, so no one was getting paid. But they've been trying different things. Okay, a new TV series, movie of the week, low budget theatrical film, mini series. They're trying all kinds of weird things. And again, the God thing, the Planet of the Titans. So the scripts are written in there, and it was partially with the studio guys. Just some of them didn't quite get it. Harlan Ellison was brought in for by that point. Gene and Harlan had buried the hatchet for the most part, and they were fine. And he and had worked up an idea. It involved an intelligent race that grew up alongside humans, And it goes back to the dawn of time before they're going and they pitched this thing. It was complicated, but it held together. And this idiot, okay, yeah, I was just reading Von Daniken and about how the Aztec calendar is the same other calendar. Can you throw some Aztecs in there? The dawn of time, there is no Aztecs. Well, just put them in there. We'll give them. Yeah, they didn't ask him back. I imagine Harlan had a few choice words out the door. It's like Gene and Harlan look, this is what I got to deal with and trying to get the, so they're bouncing back and forth. And as they're, they finally say, okay, Barry Diller had a Paramount at the time, had this dream of a fourth TV network because you had CBS, NBC, and ABC. Mutual Network had gone bye-bye. Or Dumont. Dumont. So it's like the big three. CBS, NBC, and ABC. And they're going to done the Paramount TV service, and Star Trek is going to lead the way. If that sounds familiar, yeah, because Diller came back for another round and they did it with UPN with Voyager. And it seemed to work. Good Voyager. I mean, Voyager premiered on Monday night. It beat Monday Night Football on ABC. That doesn't happen. Okay, at that time, nobody beats Monday Night Football. All the networks put up reruns when the Monday Night Football time. They ran with Voyager and it won the night. But back to the thing. But at the time, not enough interest for signing on to a fourth network. And so that's when it kind of, and after the big to-do they made about doing this Paramount television service, there's no way in hell now they can go, but well, do you want to buy your series? When the fuck you, Barry? We didn't want to buy your network when you want to buy your series. We're not going to buy your terms. And Michael Eisner was also high up there. And I'm forgetting how Barry Diller referred to it. Michael Eisner was kind of working his way in there, before he went to the Disney. But at the time he's at Paramount. And as they're going around, they're writing scripts, building sets for phase 2. They're still doing it. They didn't tell anybody involved that this is falling apart. Because we're going to do something with this. We've invested too much now. We're going to do. And as they're talking to Eisner about the pilot they worked up in Thy Image, and reported Eisner said, "We've been looking for a Star Trek theatrical film. This is it." And so they reworked that pilot episode in Thy Image into motion picture. And you think about, a 2-hour pilot, 2-hour movie. Well, the thing is, 2-hour pilot with commercial breaks. And again, by the 70s, it was no longer, one commercial breaking out. It was now 2 or 3 commercials. So it wasn't as long as now, but you're still a few more commercials in there. So you're not having to do a full 2 hours nonstop. So why the motion picture feels a little padded out? Because that's, there's not a full 2 hours of story there. There is some sequences where you're standing there looking at the screen. Oh, wow, pretty, some. But that's how that happened. And as far as Star Wars influence, again, they're figuring, making a movie. Well, Star Wars comes out, blows it away. The initial instinct for Paramount was, well, that's it. We blew a chance. Because the thinking was fans aren't going to pay for more than one sci-fi film at a time in a year. But then this is where Spielberg comes to the rescue. Close Encounters comes out right around the same time, and it does just as well as Star Wars did. People forget that. Everything about Star Wars, people totally forget about Close Encounters pulling in just about as much box office at the time as Star Wars did at the same time. At that point, if the light goes on, you mean they'll pay for more than one movie of the same type in the same time? Okay, guys, we're back on. Get the Star Trek back on. Then they fired that up. Because that was the big late 70s, early 80s. That was when you're going to get Alien and another thing coming out at that time. And then Star Trek. In fact, Star Trek Motion Picture and Alien were competing against certain Oscars. They were both up for special effects Oscar. Alien got it, but Star Trek Motion Picture was also up for an Oscar for best special effects. And I'm pretty sure Goldsmith was up for score, but he also did the score for Alien. So I don't know. But the looks, we won that one. But I think, for better or worse, that is kind of what pushed them in the direction of doing movies. Because again, for a movie every couple of years, yeah, we can pay Shatner and Nimoy and Kelly and Doohan and all them. We can pay them the bucks to keep them happy because, yeah, we do kind of owe them. We've been using their likenesses for 10, 15 years. Yeah, we can throw them a few crumbs now. But for a weekly series, that's when the thing late, and as it goes on, and the original cast is getting a little long in the tooth, and these films are getting their cost is creeping up. And that's when they start playing the idea. If we turn this back into a TV series, we can amortize the cost and make a more steady income stream here. So they were going to go with Next Generation, with or without Roddenberry. It would not have worked because the idea they had was, we'll get cadets to get the young crowd. And they would doing check marks. Yeah, we're going to bring in the kids by having cadets run the ship. And have a few old guys, as their mentors type thing. These people don't know how the military works. And you'll get the same crap with Starfleet Academy. I guarantee you. They're going to do the same damn thing, and it's going to go down like a lead balloon. Because they pitched this thing to Roddenberry, and they mentioned, this is what we're going to do. And he's like, guys, I could do better than that now. It's gonna crash and burn. I could do better. And they caught him up. Oh, would you please? Because we're flailing here. God, come on. This is going. We need you. And Roddenberry's like, oh shit, they snookered me. They got him to come out of retirement basically and come back and do Next Generation. He wasn't in the best health. Look at his document. He was already starting to lose it. Okay, he was developing water in the brain and everything. So he was not the same guy he was in 69 or 67, 68. He was still moments where it's like, he still got the good instincts of how you do this. Because, and again, you want to you don't want the original cast on there because they're too expensive and they're too damn old. To realistically, by all rights, these guys should all be retired from Starfleet by now. Okay? But you want to set this thing, throw it forward about 100 years, bring in a new crew, a new ship, and 100 years, and the course of the universe, it's nothing. There'll still be plenty of stuff out there, but let's advance things a bit, bring in new characters, bring in a new ship. We got new technology and filmmaking and television. We can do more things now. A lot of it was built on the infrastructure that original Star Trek built in the first place. So you got that. A lot of stuff would not have been there if it hadn't been for the original series. So it was very groundbreaking in a lot of ways, not just story-wise, but also just in technology of making a show like that week to week. Back then, they were showing how to, basically reinventing the wheel time. Back then, that by late 80s, we learned from the original series and other shows that happened that followed them how to do this. So now we can do it. And the closest thing you had to a problem with scheduling is because where we got Shades of Grey. It's a clip show. They're doing it because they got to fill a slot. Again, that's typical show. Every series when they do a clip show, they're filling a slot to get back on schedule. The original Star Trek did it with the Menagerie, which was a brilliant move because how badly they were out behind the schedule. But the fact is, I think it's probably network television's only 2-part clip show. It helps because it was clips no one had seen before. So it's all new stuff to the audience, but it was stuff they'd already filmed 2 years earlier. And they got 2 weeks out of it. And they filmed the surrounding stuff in about 4 days. Compared to the normal Star Trek episode, which sometimes 6, 7, sometimes 8 days they're doing pickups while they're doing another episode. That's why sometimes you get some costume screw-ups. Like I think Charlie X was probably a victim of that right there. Why is he enter with the gold and is in the wrapper? They probably messed up. But We can, if anything, if you want to try and credit Star Wars for reviving, you can blame Star Wars for having Star Trek go down the movie route in the first place. I would consider in the long run, the movies, relying on the movies was probably a mistake. There probably wasn't any way around it at the time. But I think the movie franchise has run its course. Once the show returned to television, that should have been it. The Undiscovered Country should have been the last hurrah. If that's it, you're done. No more Star Trek movies. We're done. We're a television franchise. We're back on television. But by this point, the studio mentality, okay, we'll do it. And when we wrap up Next Generation, we'll go into movies. And that one you got a case of, the difference is there had been 10 years between the end of the original series and the motion picture. So by that point, people are already kind of starting to forget about the animated series a few years, 6 years earlier. They were filming Generations the week after they wrapped All Good Things. The only difference, they went out, next week we're starting, and they were writing the movie as they were writing All Good Things, and they confused, they tend to do strange things to Brandon Braga and Ron Moore. Okay, which one are we doing here? Okay, this is the movie. Okay, and again, it kind of explains why the Generations are so scatterbrained, because they were doing it at the same time they were wrapping up the Next Generation on TV. And one reviewer, I think, it's like a Star Trek Star Trek Next Generation movie is like WKRP the movie. Because of the time when WKRP had just come back, they had just brought back the revival series, the new WKRP with French Stewart and all that. So it's like, and plus, one of the driving forces of fandom with the original series was the factor of unfinished business. They'd been cut short. Whereas Next Generation, we saw their story. They finished the thing. They had a proper finale. There was no need to keep going on the motion picture. We saw that already. And I think because of that, that's when they started doing stupid stuff. Well, let's blow up the Enterprise. The special effects kind of hated that ship anyway. We get big clumpy, that's a very bad reason to do things. But also a bit hypocritical, because if you ever see behind the scenes of the Enterprise, the big 6-foot Enterprise model in its crate, and the upper registry number has been changed to 1701E. They were seriously considering just changing that and having that be the Enterprise E, which frankly infuriates me, because they had these orders because we don't like them out. But then we're going to drag it back out and use it again because we changed our mind. Then why did you sons of bitches blow it up in the first damn place? That is what irritates me about that one. Which I imagine was probably the question that Rick Berman said. Why did you have us blow the thing up? You're just going to use the same goddamn model. No, you want to design a new model. Don't you put me in that position, because I got to deal with these idiots when they write in and say, hey, what the hell's going on here? We can't just do it the same like we did with the A, okay, with a refit, and then they just slap an A in it and call it a new ship. No, it doesn't work that way. We're in the movies now. Knock us out and build a new ship. Yep. When I saw that, I blew my stack when I saw that, because I wasn't too irritated with them. Because the way they destroyed the ship was lame anyway. They had to break all kinds of their own rules to blow up the D. Just stuff that had been established not very long before. In dealing with the Borg, like, rotating shield frequencies, ejecting the warp core, stuff that was in the writer's and tech manual, and in the published manual, like the Next Gen tech manual here that we all got. And so, yeah, this is where, and then you show the sequence. Yeah, the pods go up and then the thing goes down. If you have the CD-ROM tech manual, they even an animation of it showing it happening. So yeah, when they put this in the movie and suddenly, oh, it's gonna blow, we can't do anything. Eject the eject the goddamn core. I mean, LeVar Burton, he was asked, like, why didn't you guys just eject the core? In a convention, where were you when we needed you? In the audience, screaming at the screen, LeVar. That's it. When you have to pretty much violate your own rules, they make this, and not even a throwaway line like ejection systems offline, that would have covered them. Or have them trying to rotate shear frequencies, but because you go into Geordi's visor, they're seeing what they're going to, so they keep competent and matching the shear frequencies. That would have covered them. It's okay. So just a couple of rewrite tweaks here and there to cover the things. But they didn't do that, and it shows. Yeah. And that is also one of the reasons why season 3 of Picard is so loved, because they redeemed that, because you brought back the Enterprise D from a very fucked up demise. It should not have happened in the first damn place. So, in the case of anything that fixes it, fine. I'll take it. The ship has been restored, redeemed somewhat. And same thing with the way they killed off Kirk. Because the original script for Generations had Kirk getting shot in the back by Soren. Because he'd be, 24th century isn't that hard. And Shatner was at before they had reshot the ending. They said they tested higher than any movie to that date until the last 10 minutes, and then it just right off a cliff. And that's when they said they'd go back and they had to reshoot that ending because people were not accepting the Kirk would be that stupid. They get shot in the back, And so they had to. And actually, I've seen that ending re-edited. And I could probably do a version myself, re-edit the thing, so the Kirk never dies. Because it's still a matter of Kirk's death is not as stupid, but it still means nothing. Because his death he's not throwing himself on a hand grenade and blocking others. Once he jumps on the side of the bridge, hits the remote, decloaks the thing, done. There's nothing to say from him to scrambling up the other side of that bridge before it snaps off and living. Same result. Soren is stopped. Kirk's death does nothing to forward that. So the fact that Kirk is now on ice at Daystrom Station, it's like, okay, we fixed that one too. He wasn't quite dead yet. And I think the idea of plan a little thread there, that if we get a series, because eventually season 3 of Picard is essentially a 10-hour pilot for Star Trek Legacy. And as long as they get to it before too long, they can still do something there. But Kurtzman is, that's another issue. But actually, I think I use that to bounce into the other article I was going to go with here. Again, another one from Porto about Star Trek's canon, immensely important, and disrespecting it would be catastrophic. And I wonder why the new series, why certain new series like haven't taken off like they want them to. It's because if you disrespect the established canon, no one's saying you can't enjoy it for what it is, but if you expect us to accept this as Star Trek, not working. Star Trek is nearing 60 years old. In 2026, the franchise will hit that magical mark, making it one of the most impressive franchises of all time. It sustained decades of ups and downs, making many actors and actresses into stars and centering the fandom of millions upon millions of people. Cementing the fandom. It's the type of series that speaks to a grandparent, parent, or child of a family, unifying so many with its stories. Stories that stretch from 1966 to now, weaving it in and out of various series and films, respecting what's come before and what will come after. That depth of storytelling has allowed so many to pass down their love of Star Trek to the generations, almost gifting it to newer generations. The respect that it has for itself and what has come before is one of the more This should be phrased. One of the more major selling points of the series. Should be one of the bigger selling points. It speaks to so many that this entire universe has a beginning and follows through so many different eras. It's vital that this canon is respected and tended to. It's one of the most important aspects of the franchise. Dismissing it and breaking it would be catastrophic. So many fans have invested in the series because it all connects. You can find a point in the timeline and watch it play out. How cool is that? Being able to connect everything is vitally important to the franchise's success, and respecting it shows that you understand the Star Trek fandom. This is where Discovery and also Strange New Worlds completely fall apart. And also the first 2 seasons of Picard. They don't line up. They don't match up. You can't follow the line because where the hell did this come from? Remember, Discovery and Strange New Worlds take place between the cage and where no man has gone before. There's no connecting there. That's a big fat boulder in the middle of the time stream. Doesn't work. Let's say some believe that canon shouldn't matter, that it can get in the way of a good story, and if it does, it should be discarded. That's not true. Dismissing canon makes Star Trek less compelling. For instance, Strange New Worlds is the flagship of the franchise currently in the timeline is set before the original series. Its leading character is Captain Pike, a man we all know is doomed to have a traumatic future that he can't avert. He knows this is going to happen too. The annoying droid that hangs over his head and his decisions to improve his life's whimsy is commendable. He's a man with a fate he can't escape, but he hasn't let it turn him cruel or cold. He's the kind of leader we all wish he had in real life. Yet that impact would be significantly minimized if he decided that Pike should avoid his terrible fate, all because some think there's a better story to tell. If you can't tell when I post this on Facebook, I use this to pull quote. If you can't tell a gripping and impactful story with the history of Star Trek weighing you down, then you shouldn't write for Star Trek. If you can't keep dates and people in order, then you shouldn't be a part of the franchise. If you're such a shallow and uncreative figure that you can only do the same storyline and plot points over and over again, then you shouldn't be a part of Star Trek. Like Akiva Goldsman changing the dates of the eugenics wars. Get this through your head, Goldsman. Star Trek is not our future. There's no reason to change a goddamn thing. It will be our future. No, it wasn't. Never was. The Star Trek history is set. The eugenics wars happened in the 1990s, and Kirk and Spock, Khan was not a teenager when they found him in the Botany Bay. He was in his 30s or 40s. He was an adult. And shifting it forward, no, you just threw off the entire timeline. You broke canon. You basically, and actually you can't break, canon is canon. Canon's established. You either comply with it or you don't. And Strange New Worlds made it clear they do not Discovery out. They blew that in the first 10 minutes before they even got to, the ships. But they said, nope, this is not Star Trek. I don't care what the official, it's not Star Trek. They can call it what they want, but and same with, Discovery. Nope. I don't care how many deltas you put on everything in there. It ain't Star Trek. Let's see. The weight of its canon has galvanized the franchise, and disrespecting canon not only insults those who came before to help build that history, but also the fandom have come to embrace its many paths and branching plot lines. It is one of the core elements of the franchise, and doing anything to harm it, all because you don't like how a character turns out, is a great way to kill interest in something far older than many of its fans. And certainly far older than any of its producers and writers. So, we can get out of this. There we go. And get rid of that too. And get back over here. So again, and I'm going to apply it to any long-running show. Even stuff like South Park or Simpsons, which kind of flaunt the idea of canon because they, South Park, they literally killed Kenny McCormick every week. And he's back with no explanation. That was their jab at it, really. You have to have respect for that, okay? You have to, what the established rules are, how Mr. Garrison reacts, how all the various characters behave, what their general relationship is to each other. You have to respect that if you're going into any series. I mean, any series, really, even the newly ones have their own rule set down. Every show has its own Bible, their own writer's guide. Whether it's just a few notes, or it's a few notes written down by the creator, or a full on guide. They all have their own, writers. See, the Star Trek writer's guide is not unique. You have to at least be aware of it. And also, don't take it personally if someone points out, no, we did that last year, or this happened in this episode. That can't happen. Don't take it personally, okay? And and like I said, if you can't, my whole thing is, if you can't work your story within the established framework of Star Trek or whatever franchise you're in, then either find a different story, or it's like you're just not a good writer. If you can't work your way around it, then you might want to rethink your career choice. And mind you, other writers who I consider friends, people who've actually written, have a problem when you're having to stick to canon. Well, sorry, it's Star Trek. It's got its own history. It's got its own tapestry. You'll go there, And while errors occur, mishaps do happen. That's a far cry from Kurtzman's idea of, well, we can't keep track of it anyway, so fuck it. We'll just do what we want. And just show that you have no business even working in television, if that's your attitude. If you're going to totally disrespect the official backstory of your own series, of your own cinematic universe, for lack of a term, if your own format, then what the hell are you even doing here? Again, it's kind of like when they're talking, J.J. Abrams every time. So I was never a fan. Then why the hell are you directing this movie? Why are you even on the lot? Who the hell approved him for the movie? My response, if he was coming, wow, how big a Star Trek? Well, I never was a fan. Thank you. Thank. Because I can find, I could rattle, a few directors that are big Star Trek fans that would happily jump at the idea of directing a Star Trek movie. Ron Howard, Quentin Tarantino, hell, George Lucas, because we're going to think about Star Wars influenced Star Wars. Star Trek influenced Star Wars in a lot of ways, and how they went about solving things. And then still, if you do proton torpedoes, anyone, deflectors, tractor beams. Roddenberry wasn't happy when they first saw that. It's like, hey, they stole that from us. But again, like George stole from everybody. So. No, Roddenberry really wanted to talking to Maislish about over the proton torpedo thing. Like, that's a little too close, and man, as it is, they did meet. Apparently got along pretty well once they finally met. But at the time, there was a little tension there. But yeah, if you're not going to respect and again, I've probably got a few $100s worth of books just on the continuity and the canon. You start telling that doesn't matter, well then fuck you. Then I want my money back. I want some compensation for all the hours, the years. And dollars I spent researching this stuff and getting all this straight, okay? I think that's another reason why, I was, again, told by Bijo why there's not going to be an update on the Concordance anytime soon. Because, and the current people in charge don't want to share royalties or credit. I think there's also a factor if they don't want to be shown how freaking nuts they are. And how, because, one, the Concordance, it wouldn't have worked out because the rooting thing of the Concordance is the original series, the animated series, and what connects directly to them. So I had to go through and pick out for I got the whole list of update of what would have been the update. It would have doubled the number of episodes pretty much, because it was between the animated and the original series, that was about 90, because it was 79, 22. It would have been just over 100 episodes, really, all told. Would have been, about 102 episodes, and then the movies. So been 6 movies. And then you start going all the Next Generation, DS9, all those that directly connect to either a movie or episode from the original animated series. And that just about doubled that number because the Next Gen episodes and most of Enterprise, well, first of all, almost the entire 4th season. They went nuts. Now I'm trying to read both the connections there. But I can tell right now, Discovery would not have made the mark. None of the JJ films would have made the mark, made the cut. Lower Decks potentially could have, but because I wasn't going to count just scattershot revenue. It would have to have been a direct plot line connection. I think Lower Decks would have gotten a list of just list of episodes, but I wouldn't have gone through a full breakdown on like the episodes would have. And I'm going to cut this loose here because our pizza's on its way. But I think you got the point there. So links in the description for helping us out on things. But for now, we'll talk.